I heard the other day, Sara, play. Don't you get it? It's key, Sara. Get it. It's key. Play. Look at kids. Before we took away what we think they should be doing, what do they naturally do? They play and they create their reality. So a code is to find the thing that lights you up the most and to use the art of play and right action. So when a girl's playing with her dolls or a boy's playing with the cars, he isn't halfway there. He's 100% there. He's in it. And so one of the ancient secrets even teaches us you give 100%. The universe has it can't get out of not giving you what you desire. So play with 100% given, and now you add that dash of purpose to really be of service, like you're gonna get the Sara high.
Yeah. Hi everyone, welcome to the Eons Ahead podcast. I'm your host, Alex Wolfe. And on the show, we like to have deep, intimate conversations with amazing people that are eons ahead. And what does it mean to be eons ahead? Well, it means they're ahead of their time. They see things other people don't see, and they're able to communicate those visions to the world and manifest them into reality, making a positive impact for humanity. They're doing things that other people are not doing. They're trailblazers, they're pioneers, they're conscious leaders. And our guest today is definitely all of the above. Her name is Sara Morell. She's an international speaker. She's taken the stage and spoken to over 1 million people in person. She's a coach, she's an author, she's a builder of communities, and she's a venture of real estate. She's also one of the founders of the Sanctuary Project, an eco-luxury development building many cities internationally. It's her life's purpose to share ancient secrets and divinely guided wisdoms to help many people worldwide. She owns multiple businesses, including RoyEL, a financial education institution for women. She also founded a nonprofit organization that helps fund and run schools for impoverished children, creating educational experiences and aiding support for orphans internationally. That wasn't impressive enough. She's also won the Humanitarian Award in India last year, and also the top 100 global most influential entrepreneurs of 2024. She's definitely eons ahead. She's my friend. She's here today. Sara Morell.
That's so cool to hear. Who is that girl?
Who's that girl?
Wow. Don't we often just stride for goal after goal after goal? And then we don't really sit in the celebration. We're just after the next thing. It was really a beautiful thing to hear.
Well, that's you. So
Yeah.
It's beautiful what you're up to in this world. So many things. What are you not up to is a question I'll have for you later. But Sara, so many things there. It's so impressive. And I'm so happy that you're here today and we get to dive into all these amazing things that are making a real impact in the world. You're such a vessel and you're such a channel for God's love, and it's beautiful. But where did this all start? Let's go back to the genesis of this. Like, were you always wanting to help people? Was this something that was just in your nature, or tell us how that started out?
I love how you say Genesis. I'm also very impressed how you memorized all of that.
Not bad, huh?
Like, well done,
Thank you.
take one. It's interesting because last night I was studying one of my great aunts, who's the first woman, let alone person, to go off the Niagara Falls and live.
Whoa.
I know, right? Like, that's a
in
big
a barrel
falls
or?
In a barrel.
Wow.
Yeah, and her story is fascinating. It turns out that she was a teacher, coach, and became renowned for the Queen of the Mist.
Wow.
And as a psychic, highly intuitive, loved to dance, and then got into the stock markets, and I'm like, wow, Annie,
Yeah.
like, you're really in my field. So the Genesis, I think, our ancestors play such a role. Genesis, I love that you use that word because God,
Of course.
right?
beginning.
Co-creation.
Yes.
But I was born on All Saints Day
Wow.
in St. Joseph,
When is All Saints Day?
November 1st.
Oh, that's right. Yes.
Yeah. In St. Joseph, Missouri, in a Saint Christian hospital.
Whoa.
Yeah. Given two names that mean of God and devoted to God. And my parents didn't believe in God, didn't have church. So
Go figure.
Synchronicities.
Right.
And my birth numbers total to the story of Sara in the Bible.
Wow.
Yeah. I'm not religious, but I'm very spiritual and I walk with God. So I think it started at birth. I think I really have had no choice. I believe that I am here to kind of be like this badass saint.
Yeah.
Like, let's get up, let's have fun, let's play, and let's make a difference and show people that you can God leap your life through play and right action and righteousness.
Wow, I love that. God leap your life. That sounds awesome. Tell me a bit more about that.
People have been saying quantum leap for a while, and I think I was actually on a call with Sola. And one of the girls had said God leap. So I didn't create that, but the God leap is similar to the concept of a quantum leap.
I love it.
I think that we co-create our reality. So most people are talking about the art of manifestation, which is often from ego. And I always teach my girls, what's the difference when you manifest from love or ego? Well, if you want a Maserati and you do it from ego, you're going to get a Miserati. But if you do it from love, you get a Maserati. So the right actions. I think when you co-create with God's will and you open yourself up to let God lead for you. I mean, if you were to say to me a year and a half ago, Sarah, you're going to be the founder of one of the women and the seed investor, like my name went on everything. That's an empire building of this mini city. I couldn't even, there's no manifestation I could have even done on that. That's God. So I think that's a miracle-led life that is in co-creation.
I love it. On that note, and letting God take the lead, what do you do? What's a practice that you do that you're willing to share that someone that's new to this can do in their life to let God take the lead?
That's my favorite question. Okay. So much of us, like it was even just at church, and the pastor, love him, but it's so much in the mind. And they're talking about a relationship. If you've never had a girlfriend and somebody told you what it was like, would you really get it?
Not really, no.
No, so we have to bring us to the heart. So if you want to know what it's like allowing and surrendering to God and to have faith, well, I mean, righteousness is to walk in divine law, in accordance with divine law, which means to walk with faith. You have to bring yourself to righteousness. You have to bring yourself to love. You have to bring yourself into relationship. That means for me, the way that I bring myself home to God is obviously, it's clear. Prayer is one of the most powerful things you can do, but don't pray with your mind. Pray with your heart. The prayer starts before you speak. The prayer is in the energy of your heart. So when you close your eyes, which I hope everybody does right now, and you just sink in and you feel your heart, and then you just tune into God and you ask God to open up your heart and to fill you with God's love. And then I ask God to use me each and every single day. Let me become my highest expression and let's use it for good. And I ask God to cleanse any distortions or distractions and to give me faith and conviction. And so really sinking in with that energy, some of the other practices that I do on a daily is God walks. I put angel sounds on, and I try my best not to touch my phone, and I move the energy of my body. Now, if you watch other people who practice falling into the spirit, they'll do things like moving, singing, like bees kind of hum. There's something about the God walk and moving your energy and step by step invoking God to be with you. I do God letters and God writing. So you ask God to take your hand and to guide your pen for the answers. I sit in what stillness, silence, and solitude. I always teach my girls the 3 S's. God's love language is time. Time.
Really?
Yeah. Think about it. God said, when there was word, right? And through word came light. Why? At least in my sitting with God, what I heard, see me. See me in everything, in you. So this practice of just seeing God and noticing, giving God your time. It's what God wants more than anything. And if we go into a meditative state to be with God, your to-do list can get done way faster than if you try to do it on your own. So those are some. Obviously, dancing, singing is praying twice. Like when you sing to God and with God for a manifestation, you can just watch how all the other things that are blocking you start to crumble away. Those are a few.
That's beautiful.
I could keep going for a while, but those are some of my favorite God practices.
Oh, those are some beautiful practices. And, just anybody could do that, really. It's just taking the time, it's like God's love language or God just you're now co-creating with God. You're taking the time to allow him to take the lead and be a vessel for his mission, which is beautiful. And look at all the amazing things that's happened for you, especially in the last couple of years. And of all these things, I know there's many of them there, some of them super, super impactful. Is there one right now that you're the most excited about, or that your soul is just lit up and you could barely contain yourself, that you want to talk a little bit more about?
Well, one thing I didn't say about connecting with God is to be of service. When you are in service, as you know, Alex, you're one of the most incredible guys that I personally know. The way that you stand in this community, how you hold the feminine, how you've shown up, the way that you are centered with God, like you really have, I've told you this a million times, you change the paradigm just by being in Austin, what it means to be a man. I at least in my view, and in many of the women that I know as well, the way that you show up, how respectable you respected, and how much you respect the women, like it just changes even the way that the room is when you show up.
Well, thank you.
So being of service, which you are very much, that's why you've created such an incredible product, is because you genuinely care.
Yes, love to help people.
So when you're helping, you're connecting with God, right? That's another way, like truly being of service. So my favorite project right now is the orphanages. I am on the board of a nonprofit with Dr. Clint Rogers and the Ancient Secrets Foundation. We take the blind to see, people in wheelchairs walk, cancer cured, autism cured.
Incredible.
Johnny Ronca's girlfriend was just with us.
Oh, Krista.
Frozen shoulder, gone
that's
after
right.
a year and a half.
I heard about that.
Right away, right up. These ancient secrets are incredible.
Yes. They're real. They're very real.
They look like a miracle. Clint says it's science. I say it's a miracle. Like that is God all the way through.
Right.
It's incredible. So we have 9 orphanages in Nepal. And I've partnered with Will Harris, and we are building an eco-village in the Bahamas. And a good chunk of the proceeds from that eco-village will now go to build 11 more orphanages in India. He's connected with, there's this whole sainthood thing there. We're talking about, instead of being a saint or looking for the saint, but let's raise saints. Let's raise the kids of our future.
Right.
That's our retirement.
As saints?
As saints, as kids who know how to steward in the will of God and like right action and aligned. And Morell, she's the founder of Global Women.
Morell?
Her name is Morell,
cool.
And we're going out to Albania for some work with another orphanage.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's so my highlight right now in this moment is the kids.
That's remarkable.
Yeah.
Thank you for saying all those kind things about me and, you know, how I show up. I'm the first to admit I'm a deeply flawed human being, you know, but I do practice every day on working on myself and really showing up. And the first 4 hours of my life in the morning are really spent in those 3 S's that you mentioned: silence, solitude, and of service, to really work on myself, because my ego is always trying to get back into the driver's seat, and I have to get out of my own way and allow God to come through so I could speak on new paradigms in this world. Because the more that we're able to communicate the new earth into the world, the more I believe that it will show up through our vibration and through our frequency. I believe that we are the frequency holders of this new earth, and it's a responsibility, and it takes a lot of work, but I'm constantly working on myself. I mess up just like everybody else, and I've said stupid things in the past, but I also forgive myself, and I'm constantly learning and growing from people here in Austin, especially, and conscious leaders like yourself, Sara. So I really appreciate that, and thank you. And speaking of the new paradigm, you know, how important is it for, you know, men to be showing up and talking about a new paradigm? You know, there's obviously a lot of issues and stupid things going on in the matrix that you know, we're still living in to a certain extent. We're still in this matrix world. But how important it is for men and women to speak about new paradigms.
Well, you asked about men, and I'm a mother of boys. I have an 8-year-old and a 6-year-old.
Yes.
And
great kids.
They love you.
I love them too.
And my mother was very alpha, master manifester, like lead the way. I am woman, hear me roar. And so I've naturally just elevated women my whole life. Like I've been a protector of women, let me rise up the feminine. And then I became a mother of boys. And like much of the women who have had injury from the masculine, that created this cycle where then the mothers would emasculate their boys. And then the boys of what I think the men that we have right now, many have been raised by emasculating mothers or mothers who have been injured. It's that cycle. I think we're here to break a cycle.
Right.
Truly, on so many levels in a way that's never been done before. This is the best time that's in history ever been to be alive. We literally can use play to manifest. 85% of millionaires right now are first generation.
Wow.
Let that sink
Really?
in.
Wow.
85% are first generation. This is the era of cycle breaking.
Right.
So having the conversation of the next level paradigm, I think it's really sinking into what does that look like? You know, showing up, saying yes when you mean yes, no when you mean no. When you see something, to sin by silence when one should protest makes cowards out of men. Is my favorite quote.
Wow.
I think we often see things and
Can you say that again? I'm sorry to interrupt,
Yeah.
but that was awesome. I want to hear that again.
To sin by silence when one should protest makes cowards out of men.
Oh, I love that.
A really good friend of mine has a book named Resilience, and he says most people go to feelings, then actions equals identity. And what he suggests is we go to what is the identity you want? And then you take the actions. And from there, your feeling will come. So it's the opposite of what we naturally do. And so in this paradigm, having the conversation as a mother of boys, this is co-creation between male and female. I don't even necessarily like this whole spectrum. It's masculine or it's feminine. I've never resonated with that.
Why not?
Because it creates a label and shame. Oh, that woman's too inner masculine.
Right.
And being masculine's wrong.
Right. Yeah. No.
I think we're spectrums. All of us have that. Just like I think Earth isn't a she. She provides, she protects. I think it's limiting to it. So having the conversation is necessary, but I think it's not about the feminine overrising or anything like that. I think this is co-creation. We're nothing without the male, and the male is nothing without the
so true.
The female.
Yeah.
And raising our kids that way. Let them see the embodiment of what it looks like to face the things that are really scary for us and take right action when you're normally sitting by silence to speak. That's the new paradigm.
That's beautiful. It reminds me of one of my favorite quotes too. I like yours a lot better now. I might have to adopt that one, but it was, the world is a harsh place for those that don't assert themselves. So it's really, speaking into it and speaking truth into it. And I believe the more that we could, be a clear channel for God is truth, and we could speak that into the world, and then it starts to ripple out there, a ripple effect. So I love that quote. I'm gonna use that again. Shifting gears a little bit. We met a couple years ago. I believe it was at our good friend Johnny's birthday party. And, we started talking, and you found out I had a mushroom company, and you became very interested in that. And remember you came to my house, and I actually gifted you some mushrooms at one point. Would you mind sharing with the audience, how do you feel about mushrooms, and what's your relationship with them? And how do you see them playing a factor in all this stuff? And go ahead. Yeah.
It's huge. First, it's called the tone of truth. This is what I look for in my life. When I'm siphoning through decisions or options, left or right, this investment or this project or what to do, I look for what I call the tone of truth. And many people have asked me, well, why did you choose this project, or why do you choose this thing? Sometimes I can't explain, other than God lights me up, and I can feel this knowingness of what I call the tone of truth. This is where I'm moving for. And the minute I met you, I'm like, oh, there it is. I don't know exactly, but then you told me about your company, and I kept going, Alex, can I invest? Alex, can I invest? I literally think I had to ask you, I don't even know how many times. Several times before you let me invest in the company, because I could feel that this is a product. Most, especially being in the development world, what I have come to discover is much of our corporations in these industries put profit first and God second, is what I say. And God second, what I mean by that is right action. The customer, right? That would be second. Profit would be first, right? That's what I would give that to an analogy. you put the customer and the person first.
Yes.
You put earth first before you even create the product for the human. And that to me is on every level a yes. So like Eons, you're just in what circadian wellness is doing in the industry with how it's helping farming and the crops and then the way you create the crops, that I want to invest and get behind. I understand the plants that we eat. The energy it gives us starts from where it's birthed and who created, who bathed it every day, who sang to it. So the way that you even harness your ingredients for the product is a big yes. Microdosing in itself and having the slew of different options that we now have on the grocery stores shelves to help with clarity, energy, and especially I use Eons to sleep.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So best sleep I've ever had because of it. And my energy is clear, my memory is better, my body feels better. That's the why. That's the why. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Yeah, you really dialed into that tone of truth, because that's how we always start off at Eons is how can this serve the whole, the big picture. And so we start with that. We're like, everything we do should make everyone's life better, not just mine or as a company, but it really starts with that. And then we work our way backwards. So we start with that and go, okay, well, what are some of the problems that humans are facing these days? Problems that everybody in the world can identify with, and sleep is one of them, especially with all the crazy stuff going on in the world. It's getting harder and harder to sleep. So much information, there's so many distractions, there's so much noise out there, and it's harder and harder to tap into that tone of truth, like you said. So we're trying to bring people back to the signal, that tone of truth. And we truly believe that mushrooms are connected to nature. Nature is God's way of communicating with us. And if we can help bring solutions to these modern day problems like sleep, anxiety, gut health, productivity, hydration even, that's something else we're working on at Eons, then we can start to bring us back to wellness, and I believe wellness is a starting point. It's not an end goal, and everybody deserves to be well. And the way that this matrix world is set up these days, it's often challenging for people to get to wellness and feel whole, so then they can show up for their family and their kids and their community, and it just ripples out, like you said. So thank you for that reflection, and it means a lot to me. And touching on community, I know you're a big community person. You're a community leader here in Austin, and tell us what community means to you, and how you're integrated into community these days.
I'm going to go back to Eons because I want to say one other thing.
Yeah.
The coffee is the only coffee I'll let in my belly.
Yeah.
I can't have coffee. It hurts my stomach.
Right.
Like I just get acid and it burns for days and it's awful.
Yeah.
But Eons coffee, I can have. It's amazing. Two of the things that are keeping people the most, or that we see on the rise more than most things, but I mean, cancer is high, but it's men's testosterone and women's hormones.
Yeah.
And you use ashwagandha.
That's right.
In your coffee, which helps women's hormones.
Yes,
I want to say that, dropping that down.
Yeah, thank you.
I'm excited for when he creates a tea. Pushing that button.
It's a good call. It's a good reminder.
Need a tea.
Need a tea.
Definitely need a tea.
It's a good call.
Community. I'm 5 and there's a picture of me and I have an entourage of women on my bed.
Wow.
Like I've always been the mother and the gatherer of humans.
I can see it.
I love people. And I think part of the reason that I love people, I honestly can feel it now. I tell God to take my body every day. And as a result, I think that I really unconditionally love you. I unconditionally love
I feel that.
Isabel and Johnny and Krista, and what I would do, to help someone outside of when I'm wrangling my babies.
Yes.
Like I've got you. It's this insatiable desire to help, but not in a way of I'm not going to condone your stuff. No, I'm pushing some buttons. We're getting up, making some moves.
Yeah. Speaking truth.
It's to speak the truth and to get them up. And I always would say there's this, the conversation, the question about if you could have a superhero power, what would it be? Mine would be if I could touch someone, they would know what I see truth for them. They would know what I know about them. God has given me a gift of visions, and I can see people and I see them at their highest with
Beautiful.
God. And I just want people to really be able to see that anything is possible for their life. Community obviously is one of the greatest ways that we thrive. That's all the studies have done it. You live the longest when you have a great community.
Right.
We are blessed in Austin.
So blessed
to have like the most amazing community there is. And I think one of the ways that God really shows up in our life is through relationships. That's also how we can sometimes get tracked off. So we always have to make sure. And Sola and I were just talking about this. Most humans, and I'll land it on this, we've come from such scarcity and survival that we've made relationships transactional. How is this person going to help me get to X, Y, or Z? How are they serving me? And I want to invite everyone to let go of transactional relationships.
Yeah, so conditional.
Yes. And really sink in and think to yourself, how can I be of service? And give 100% to the relationship. And by the act of that, you'll just be abundantly blessed.
For sure.
But twisting and changing it a bit to being more of a service. And imagining you unconditionally love someone, then you feel the unconditional love. And then you emanate unconditional love back. And now we feel unconditional love. We're like, this feels amazing. Why? Just starting with I unconditionally love you.
Yeah.
So, community. Yeah.
Beautiful. Well said. And yeah, that's such a interesting topic. It's I get it conceptually, to love someone unconditionally is the ultimate, right? And I shared this once before. The only time that I've ever experienced fully unconditional love was through a plant medicine ceremony where I asked, I was like, I want to experience unconditional. That was my intention going into the ceremony. And I was, I took the medicine and I was pretty much instantly teleported back to when I was a baby, and I could see my parents looking at me as a child, and I got to experience the unconditional love through the eyes of my parents.
Wow.
And it was full, and that's what I felt throughout my whole being. And I was literally there as a baby, and I could see them. I was like, that was unconditional love. And then my parents actually came to visit that weekend, and I just got to sit in that unconditional love as much as possible. I could still feel like the triggers starting to come back into my identity self, and I think parents just play a role in that. It's like Ram Dass says, if you think you're spiritually enlightened, go and spend a week with your parents. So it's just part of it, right? And I think it's the constant, it goes back to what we were saying of just getting out of our own way. And the more that we could get out of our own way and lead with love, that these separations, start to disintegrate, and we're more and more connected to that essence of love. And it's such a great reminder, and I'm grateful you bring that up today, so we could lead the world in love. There's something that you brought up there, Sara, that I'm curious about. You even as you're talking, you're a very feeling person, right? Or a human. You feel so much. I could tell when you're speaking, you're really sensing into it. And do you think that's your way of communicating with God, is just to allow him to feel through you? Or tell us more, like, how can someone be more of a feeling person as opposed to in their head so much?
I want to give grace that we are all built so differently because we have different chapters to serve. We have different roles to play in waking up humanity and cultivating change. And I realized that I was born with a gift. And so I want to have such compassion for anyone who may not easily be able to sink into that.
Right.
But you can cultivate it. Just like any of us can work at a gym and get muscles, like you can go to the gym and you get closer with God, you can hear God, and everybody has a different way of hearing God. So I hear it and can feel it through a vibrational frequency that will then translate to words or visions. And for other people, they might have it through smell or through codes or symbols or, and there's no right or wrong. That's all there because we're uniquely built. And as far back as I can remember, I could feel and hear God. And I learned really quickly that was not accepted. That is not normal. And so I shut the gift down. And one of the ways that I turned the gift back on, first of all, God doesn't give you a choice when it's time. Like, you know that feeling. But I want to say on unconditional love, I tell God, I have an alarm that goes off my phone. I think you've seen it, 12:43 every day. I don't know why it's
12:43?
Yeah, I don't know why.
That's like my favorite number ever. That's so cool.
Really?
Yeah, 43 has been followed me my whole life.
Yeah, I don't know why I picked it. I just picked it as that's the time.
Wow.
Yeah.
Fascinating.
That God tells me God is madly in love with you. And I have that go off. And the original Lord's Prayer, I think Isabella was telling me about, Isabel,
right. Yes,
is beloved. And so sinking into the beloved, sinking into the beloved, yes, beloved, yes, the beloved, and into God is madly in love with you. And then you ask God to help me to feel unconditional love. Show me what your love feels like, and then watch out. Yes. It might not grab you in that moment, but so many people I've just said, hey, can you just ask God to fill you with your love? I've never felt God's love before. I've never felt unconditional love before. And then I'll get a text like a week later. You know, even the other founder of Sanctuary, it's like, Sara, it happened. I felt it. I'm like, this is the gift that we have if we ask for it.
Right.
Bare feet on earth. That's a tactical way that I really sink in and ground to feel. And the longer you can spend with your feet on the earth or in the waters of the river, like my dad raised me in the woods. We used to shit in the weeds and bathe in the creek.
Yeah.
And like I turned to half Pocahontas when he gave me the water. And like that's another way to really feel into love, because that's all God is. It's this sensation of love that then will teach you and show you. You know, you can say, God, search my heart, and watch out. You will get revelations. Not always easy. But ask to cultivate it, and then practice that. Unplug the Wi-Fi at night. The phones have us so disconnected from our body feeling.
Yes.
So if you want to get more into that feeling, really intentionally, like when I'm with you right now, I'll stop. You'll notice me touch my heart a lot because it's like my pressure point to sink in. And I just am such pure presence with this moment. And if I notice my thought go off, I'm like, oh, God, take me.
Right.
And I anchor back. There's an analogy of a cork underwater, and that the human in its natural state as we're born is in this perfection. What does a cork do if it doesn't have any weight?
Floats?
It floats.
Of course.
But over time, all of these stories and traumas and situations and beliefs come in, and they weigh us down underneath. And so our job in the art of co-creation and manifestation isn't necessarily to go learn a thing or do a thing or grab a thing. It's just to let go of the stories and beliefs and ideas and expectation.
So true.
And you'll just float to the top. And so we would just let it go and allow, and that through the art of play and meditation every day, you sink into feeling.
Ah, that's so good. Yeah, letting go is such a code. Such a code. On the word codes, you know, for me, I've talked about this a little bit before. For me, when someone gets a code, it's like they get a new perspective. And with a new perspective, you have a new outlook. And now you can move your life into a new direction. And when, you know, as you're going on a new direction, now all of a sudden your life is taking on a whole nother path. What is one code, if you could share one code with the audience today that's made a big impact in your life that you'd like to share?
Only one?
Well, we'll start with one.
I call it kingdom codes. This is what I also teach my women. Understand kingdom codes. Wealth is your birthright. And to be truly prosperous and have real prosperity and holy wealth, there are a few codes that for me is non-negotiable. So the difference with God or without God, you see a lot of people build wealth all the time, but they're never quenched. They're constantly thirsty. It's the next thing. They can't even be still with themselves. And they got to have all these things entertaining them.
Why is that?
Because I think without God, you're a missing link, you're a missing hole, and you're always searching for that missing thing.
Right.
But when you co-create with God, it's like this such peace. Like I fall asleep smiling. I wake up smiling.
The best.
I'm 40 in a couple months, and I dance my way through manifestations. I am silly. Don't get me wrong. When I'm in a business meeting, a different girl shows up. But like, I am so happy, and I use play. And for me, between asleep and awake, a lot, God will talk to me often. And I heard the other day, Sara, play. Don't you get it? It's key, Sara. Get it, get it, get it. It's key. Play. Look at kids. Before we took away, what we think they should be doing, what do they naturally do? They play, and they create their reality.
Yes.
So a code is to find the thing that lights you up the most and to use the art of play and right action. So when a girl's playing with her dolls or a boy's playing with the cars, he isn't halfway there. He's 100% there.
He's in it.
He's in it.
Yeah.
And so one of the ancient secrets even teaches us you give 100%. The universe has it can't get out of not giving you what you desire.
Reciprocates.
Yeah. So play with 100% given.
I love that. And
now you add that dash of purpose to really be of service. Like, you're going to get the Sara high.
Yeah.
You're going to get this, like, I will sit. You've heard my giggles. I'll have uncontrollable laughter for no reason, for like just the Holy Spirit running through you. That sufficiency is that cork at the top of the water, and life just gets to come at you in this magical, amazing, miracle way.
Ah, so beautiful. Laughter, you speak of the giggles. Laughter really is the best medicine, in my opinion. And then microdosing may be a close second. I'm kidding. But on the topic of microdosing, we brought it up a little bit before. How do you see microdosing, with companies like Eons or others? How do you see them playing a factor in the real world, in business, in mental health, and all that? Do you think there's a place for it in there?
Substantially.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, there's so many studies that have been done to show that microdosing can help eliminate Parkinson's. They've had it on Parkinson's, on depression, anxiety. It helps to, my understanding, correct me if I'm incorrect on this, but rewire the brain.
That's right, neurogenesis.
Yes, so it has different pathways.
Yes.
I mean, you think about what the mushroom does in general.
Exactly.
It goes down, it connects all over and rebuilds and rebuilds and rebuilds. I mean, even what you've done with crops, the crops are 10 times more sufficient than they were prior to the mushrooms that you're using to replenish the soil, correct? Do I have that number right?
Yeah, pretty close. So I'll just touch on that again for the audience that don't know. So Circadian Wellness, the parent company that owns Eons, that I co-founded, also invested in a plant signaling technology. And this plant signaling technology, called Agrarius, goes in and it connects with the mycelium, and it uses the mycelial network to transport nutrients and water and information, and basically tells the crops, like, it's go time, like, create the most abundant fruit and crops that they're growing, and the results are amazing. Literally 1,000% of the time it works, and it's batting 1,000. Every single farmer that's tried it has been blown away. So yeah, thank you for bringing that up. It's something that we're super excited about, and it's growing big time in South America. So yeah, thank you for that reflection.
It's so cool.
Yeah.
It's so cool.
It's incredible.
Like, it's incredible.
It's a gift.
Like, what our food is the most important thing. The soil is so depleted now that it's like 5 times less the nutrients than they used to have in our soil. So this is like epically amazing. And the dirt has healing properties for our gut.
That's right.
And
Soil.
if you use the series of all these different mushrooms that we have now to help with the brain and all these other things, it also helps with the gut.
That's right.
Substantially. And the gut, we know now, is connected to everything.
It is. It's such a revolutionary part of medicine today. It's connected to everything. And the more and more people can take care of their gut health and bring it back to homeostasis, the axis between the gut brain, now they're in more of a homeostasis. So they're able to make better decisions, and our decisions lead to our choices, which leads to our destiny. So it's all super connected.
Mushrooms, if you think about it this way, so epigenetics is the study of it's also how we adopt our ancestors' memories, but how our genes are turned on and off by environmental factors or things that we eat. So every bite that you eat either tells the body to heal or to hinder. So food is information, is what I went to nutritional school before I became who I am now. If you microdose and then go sit intentionally, say in nature, doubling down, and then meditate, like the revelations, the healing, what can happen for your body when you add those three factors together is substantial. I just would challenge anybody who hasn't done it yet to go sit in that practice of the all three and watch how your life epically changes.
Well said. Well said. Sara, you've been on such a roller coaster whirlwind over the last few years of epicness, you know, traveling to India and speaking on the stage in front of so many people. And, you know, you're always traveling all over the place, meeting amazing, interesting people, all walks of life. Question for you. If you could have dinner with one historical figure, who would it be and why?
I've been to 30 countries in the last 2.5 years.
Wow.
Just in the last 2.5 years.
Wow.
And I'm a sovereign, I like to say, single mom. Sovereign. I just want to land that. Women, there's no excuse. Like, you can do it.
Yeah.
Their dad has them 40% of the time. I'm basically in a plane 40% of the time. And it's changed my life. Like, the people, like you're saying, that I've met and the things that I've done, lived in castles and played with orphans, and like, it's molded me into who I am today. My third mom, Vicky Hannah Lynn, is blind.
Wow.
And she went blind in her late 30s, early 40s, and still decided that she was going to travel the world and write 10 books. And she's who helped mold me into the human I am today.
Wow.
Oh, changed every call I have every week with her. She's still epically blowing my mind. She's just a channel. So one of the first trips I took was with her, and I just want to state that. She says, you're always practicing something every day. So what are you practicing? You know, I know this is going to be controversial, and I don't even want to answer it because in one form, I always tell my girls to say, I don't care, because we have to like let go what we think people like.
Right.
And the other thing I say all the time is, aren't they adorable? Because when the people pleaser in you dies, the God in you can arise.
Oh, I love that. That's powerful.
And we care too much. So I'm going to say all of that before I admit.
Thank you for the
I want to sit with Oprah.
Oprah, wow. Okay.
I've always said since I was a little girl, I wanted to be like Oprah meets Mother Teresa. Oprah has, I know there's controversial stuff.
Sure.
She has, from what I've watched, like, she has a whole school of girls. And I remember the first time she ever announced she had a school of girls, my whole body lit up when I'm going to have a school for kids, like that. And the way that I remember her teaching me about how to only use one napkin. You know, like, she's done a lot of work on her platform to wake people up to get us to where we are today. Is there growth? Sure, of course there's growth. But yes, I would sit with her. I want the ability to, you know, like you just said, I was in India with 1 million people live on stage. I got off stage and I felt I could have done better. I want to stand and just leave people with the utter knowingness that they can do it. And in fact, it's them that needs to do it. No one else is going to show it for them.
Right.
So Oprah does that. Oprah's who I would sit with. Who would you sit with?
She's a powerhouse, and I think she's done some incredible things amongst the controversy. And I think that she would actually learn from you, Sara Morell. Yeah. Honestly.
Do you hear that, Oprah?
Yeah. So you heard it here first, yeah. Who would I sit with? You know, the cliche answer would be our homeboy JC, Jesus Christ.
Oh, yeah, duh.
Yeah, I know.
I should have said that.
That's okay. I thought that's where you're going to go.
God.
But, you know.
Well, I sit with God now.
I know. So if I since I hang out with him so much, but I would like to see it in the physical form. Just for the sake of the question, of course, but that would be my number one choice. And if I had to pick another one, you know, obviously because he's everything, would probably be Alan Watts. I listened to Alan Watts a lot over the past 4 or 5 years, and he was a big inspiration in my life to dive deep and go within and face the darkness and all this kind of stuff. And he's obviously no longer with us in this physical form. So I'd say Alan Watts and just ask him a lot of questions. You know, you mentioned that earlier, which it rang a bell for me, is really the power of questions. You know, because if you get out of your own way and realize that there's always something to learn, you can ask a question and just wait and listen for God to come in with the answer. And like you said, spending more time in nature is a great way to be able to listen. So I know you touched on it, but is there anything you want to elaborate there with the power of asking questions, and how you do this in your life?
So Dr. Naram and Dr. Clint Rogers, the master healers, speak on this. They say that humans aren't, what they want most isn't actually love. It's to be understood.
Makes sense.
Be understood.
Right.
I watch it with my kids when I try to fix something. They don't want me talking. They just want me to repeat back to them. Oh, your ball's been stolen? Yes. And then they feel heard.
They feel heard and understood.
There's a Jedi trick. I think it was a FBI. There's this blonde-haired woman who teaches about the FBI tactics. I always try to give my credit to where it's due when I share my magic.
Love that.
It's to repeat the last 3 words that somebody has spoken. They make sure that they're really heard. And then, so they feel understood. I think the power, what I've also watched with Justin, my business partner in Sanctuary, whenever he would come to anyone, he would just ask all of these questions. And people would feel so seen. They would then be like, let me invest.
Right.
He wouldn't even talk about the project too much. He would just ask them questions and get to know about them, wanting them to feel that they had a place. And you could tell, I don't necessarily think he's intentionally doing it. This is who he is. He
He's
asks
a genuinely curious guy. Yeah.
Asks a lot of questions.
I've met Justin. He's very curious.
He's asks a lot of questions, doesn't he? And after you're with him, you feel seen.
Right. You got to express yourself and you're sharing genuinely.
Yes. And I'll tell you, Sara used to go to all these events and she wanted people to know how cool she was. Like, you don't understand, I've saved lives and I travel the world and Austin people, you don't really get me yet. You don't know how cool I am. And so I would try to talk and nobody was getting it, right? And finally, when I was getting seen for my magic, oh, she's building cities and on stage 1 million people and writing books and saving babies and orphans and whatever. Then people they noticed I stopped talking. Right. I started asking a lot more questions than just witnessing. And I would leave, and I leave every event feeling so much more fulfilled than I've ever felt before, because I was leaning in to hold for another person. And that says everything. You feel good about yourself. The other person feels really good. Of course, you have the opportunity to kind of share back, but then also the pressure's taken off of you to perform, and you just seek to understand. There's wisdom in every single person. In Ancient Secrets, we say, Aditi Devo Bhava, which means you treat every situation as if it's God itself showing up. That the stranger at the door, you have to treat as if it's God itself. And God is in you. And so when we seek to ask these questions, there's wisdom in you that God will speak through to shift our life. And isn't that the very thing? So the 85% of people who are first-generation millionaires right now, the common biggest factor between them when they asked, what do you think made you so successful? What do you think it was?
They asked a lot of questions?
They read books.
Oh, they read books.
Equivalent to asking questions.
Right.
And self-development books.
Right. Wow.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
That's asking the questions.
There's the knowledge there, right? And knowledge is obviously powerful, and asking questions is a great way to get there. Even when you brought that up, the word questions, quest is in there. So it's like you're going on a quest to find this knowledge that God has sprinkled throughout the earth here. And it's such an interesting part of the game, of this life, this earth game that God has created. And I think that there's just something so powerful there about asking questions. And that's why I love doing this podcast, is just asking questions with people that I find amazing and getting to uncover what's within, and I've truly enjoyed this, Sara. It's been such an enjoyable conversation.
Yeah. I love that quest,
right?
By the way.
Yeah, it just came to me right now. I was like, there's a quest in there that you're going on. It makes it like more of an adventure. And then being genuinely curious is just, your business partner, Justin, he's a very curious guy. I love Justin. And it's just such a refreshing quality when someone's genuinely curious, because it shows that they don't they don't have all the answers, but they're willing to learn, you know, and I love that very much. So on that spirit of willing to learn and curious, I'm curious, is there anything else that you want to share with the audience that, you know, that's on your heart and that, you know, you're up to in this world? And what's next for Sara?
I was classified disabled and told I would never work by the age of 17.
Holy smokes.
Yeah, I used to lay in my own vomit in so much pain, I couldn't even yell for help. In hospitals, born to an incubator, staph infections, sickness after sickness after sickness.
Oh my.
And naturally I got into drugs, right? Like, what do you do? Sure. Methamphetamines are great.
Yeah.
Not great. Wait, make sure that doesn't cut. They're great when you're suffering, right? When you're in medicine. That kind of pain, it became medicine. And so I went to drugs and alcohol and destroying my body and participating in really bad relationships for years and years and years. So poor, like food box line, just the, you know, homeless for a while as a child. Like I've gone through it. All sorts of different traumatic experiences as a child. And so I just say all of that anybody who's listening right now, look at where I'm at. It doesn't matter where you come from, where you are, what trauma you've come through. I would say that the single biggest factor that's got me to where I am now is somatic healing. And in the last 6 months, especially, I really got woke up to, like, I have it all figured out and everywhere else in my life, but intimately in a relationship, that's where I would start to panic because I've experienced the most trauma there. That's a lot of us, like in that area.
Right.
And for about 6 months, I've just poured my heart into somatic work. And thank you, Des Gutierrez. She's really led me on that.
Oh, she's awesome.
She's amazing. And my being is different now. Like I feel from doing somatic work. So if anybody's hearing that, wherever you're at, okay, well, how do we get to Sara? Through play, through prayer, through trusting God and continuously taking right action, and through somatic work. Breath work and sessions and just intention and asking God to show you, you know, where is it stuck in my body and moving that out, because the body does keep score, which is a great book. That's what I like to land it on, that it doesn't matter where they're at. They could ask themselves, what would you do if you could do anything? And then allow their body, their nervous system to get behind that answer. And it can all come for them.
Thank you for that. Wow, that's a powerful message. I feel it. And it shows and it says to me that anything is possible, you know, and the comeback is always greater than the setback if you allow God to show you what's possible. And, you know, people call it miracles, but it's really just anything is possible when God's at the wheel. So thank you for that. Beautiful way to land it on here. Sara, we had a beautiful, beautiful, epic, powerful prayer to start off this podcast. I feel like it's God working through us throughout the whole time. So thank you. Where can people find you if they want to connect with you, if they want to work with you, if they want to learn more? Where can they find Sara Morell?
Yay! Instagram, Sara, no H, D, and then Morell, Morell. It's probably the easiest way. I have all my links and things to there and the projects that I'm working on. That's the way, yeah. And through Alex.
Cool, yeah.
Instagram Alex, we're connected.
You got it,
Yeah.
awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on. I thoroughly enjoyed this conversation. It's been beautiful getting to know you and being your friend, and I look forward to watching your success story. I wish you 100 years of success. And yeah, thank you so much.
Before you end it,
sure.
What's the number one thing you do to be with God?
The number one thing I do with God is prayer as well. And that's where I feel the most connected, is communicating with God. I go out of my way to pray as much as I can throughout the day, but it's at least several times a day. I'd say that's the number one. And going in nature as well, spending time in nature. I listen to, I just sit by a fountain, the sound of the rippling water. And to me, that's where I get my most insightful, you know, downloads from God. And that's where I get a lot of the ideas from Eons as well.
Thanks, God.
Yeah, thank you. The best.
So beautiful. Thank you, Alex.
Thank you, Sarah. It was awesome.